Hey guys, it's Ann. Welcome to my home worm farming channel, and today we're going to have a look at blue. Now, as you can see over here, I have taken the suggestion of putting dog food bags on top of here to hold the moisture in. And then here is a roll of burlap that I got on sale at a hardware store. I'm not really sure what the price was supposed to be, but I got it for $4. And of course, the dog food bag came with the low price of $60 a bag for the dog food. They throw in a nice moisture barrier for free. Alright, so today what we're going to do is we're going to unwrap these guys and have a look and see what they're doing. I'm going to try and get a harvest out of the other end today. I planted my garlic today, and probably going to try and top cover that with some worm castings if I can. Alright, well, let's get you set up and then we will get moving today. Alright, so we are going to do a little bit of harvest here. I know some people find it boring and other people like it, but here we go. I'm going to do a little bit at a time, and then anything that's on the overs gets put back to the beginning. There's not a lot of super dry stuff here. Between the worm blanket and the dog food, it has really not dried out a whole bunch, which is good in my opinion. So you can see that there's still quite a bit the worms need to finish eating. But I think I'll get enough to put over the top of the garlic. I used to plant my garlic a lot sooner, but I found that if I did it too soon, here in Illinois we have fall and false fall before winter. And basically, if you try and put it, the first time you have a frost, a lot of times it will still get up in the 80s Fahrenheit, and then your garlic will totally sprout a lot. And then unfortunately, it doesn't survive the winter or make you as big of bulbs if you do that. So I have had to order early because you don't get the hybrids you want if you order late, but you basically just have to remind yourself that basically around the first time that you get a hard freeze is when, at least in Illinois where I live, is the correct time to do garlic. Any sooner and it's going to use up the stores on that bulb. And even so, oops, there we go. And even so, I'm hoping that I will still get a little growth. It'll be 60 Fahrenheit again this coming week. So the garlic will have time to put down roots and get acclimated before it freezes solid permanently for the winter. Global warming notwithstanding, the winters are not as bad as they used to be. When I was a kid, you could expect to get feet and feet of snow, and nowadays you get 2 or 3 snow events, and we're more likely to get ice events here than we are snow anymore. All right, I think that maybe one more. It's sifting pretty easily. Oops. Don't need any random squash in my yard again this year. I want to put the purposeful squash in. But this is a really great moisture to sift at all the finished stuff, or it's compost. It's not 100% worm castings like I showed you the other day with the red wigglers, how everything became really paste-like. You can see fibers of the coconut coir in here, and components of whatever this was made out of you can still see, and that is good for me. I like that. I'm just gonna harvest enough for my uses right now so that Blue can build his volume up, and we're gonna help out with that today because he's getting more roommates. We're gonna harvest enough here so that he has room enough for another one of those trays of red wigglers. All right, so let me put you down and we'll start fluffing and moving as the wedge method demands. Okay, since I did not take out very much, we don't have a lot of things to move over. but we can, you know, take things that we find that are not going to finish up, and we can also get a little bit of air into here for the next time. I think blue is filling up nicely nowadays. Pretty pleased with how fast this is going. I'm pretty lucky that, you know, I had enough material started to build blue up again. Because it takes, you know, 20 gallons of material to even get a system this size started. If you wanted to start a system similar to blue, you would probably need to have 3 or 4 mortar trays, like the concrete mixing trays or whatever. I don't know what anybody else uses them besides worms and concrete. But I digress. So basically you'd need about 4 of those to get started to even have a chance of half filling up a system like blue. So that's good. We filled that up to the top as much as we can. And then I'm going to flip you around, and then we will move the middle portion over to make room for not only investigating what the feeding did last time, but also so that we can add more worms and bedding today. All right, here we are. I'm just going to take that top part and scoot that down. I still need to get a step stool down here. If you can tell, this is up to my armpits. Not super ideal for me digging deep, but you know, life is you know, work in progress. I'll get there one of these days. So not seeing very many worms, even though the moisture is quite a bit, and I literally just said not seeing many worms, and then here he is to prove me wrong. And another of his friends, and another of his friends, and another one. But not very many, like I'm saying. Might be 3 or 4 or 5, but not hundreds, which is how it's designed. There are not supposed to be any worms at all at the side we just harvest from, very few here in the middle, and then hopefully scads at the opposite end, where the grand cat has been guarding the worms. So our Nalu is a proven killer of rodents. So she, hopefully, I haven't seen any rodents here, but if I did, she's gonna get them. All right, let's scooch down just a little bit more. All right, so we're just gonna keep moving things down here, and I'm starting to see, let me try and hold still here a little, but you can see there are pot worms and there are some springtails in here. So that means that we're getting to the area where we are seeing enough food to support life, enough food and enough moisture. Those teeny tiny white worms are actually pot worms, not baby red wigglers. And that's perfectly fine. That is part of the ecosystem. You know, you don't ever get firefighters at your house if nothing's on fire. And if you have pot worms and mites, etc., then that means you need them. It does not mean that, you know, they showed up to be a menace exclusively. Basically, you've done something, fed something that the worms can't handle on their own, and the mostly dormant population of the helper critters has a nice population bloom, and then they take care of it, and then they kind of settle down back into the background until they are needed again. All right, so we're starting to see quite a few more worms here. So if you have any questions about blue or the wedge method, I know a lot of people who are new to the channel or new to this method see me digging deep in here and think, oh my God, why are you messing with those worms? Leave them alone. This system is meant to do that way. And I come down here about every 3 to 4 weeks. So I'm not down here poking around in them every single day. They get disturbed once a month so that I can both, you know, get some air into the bin, which is super important. You don't want things to become anaerobic. And then also so that I can evaluate it, pick out things that are not going to get digested anytime soon, and then feed them again. So let's move down again. Okay, so you can just see the leftovers here. That will go back and become part of the feeding. I've still got some of these clay balls from when I was planting things, and I put leftover completely knocked the hamster off the wheel. You're never gonna guess who is overlooking the situation here. And there she is. Or the grand cat, Nalu Nalu. Up in the rafters of the basement, watching over the worms. Nalu, it's probably not a good idea to go down there. Shadow's down there. And you're gonna get your nice little white feet dirty. Anywho, Nalu's gonna do Nalu things. She's kind of like worms. She does what she wants. All right, so we're gonna keep moving. She's so sneaky. I did not even see her up there. All right, there we go. Moving things over. And let's see, what are we finding? Looks like this is part of a squash or something, maybe. You can see just the tiniest little bit there. Shadow, nope, nope, nope. You do not need to be a part of that. Nope. Okay, cat and dog drama may continue in the background. She knocked the light off that was over the worms. So if you hear this ominous growling in the background, that would be Nalu. Okay, it looks like the stems from the outside vegetation still not completely finished. I was hoping we'd get a worm ball. Okay. They've started eating this avocado. That's good. Okay. There we go. And that's all piled up, and we can move back over. All right, and then here we are at the last of it. Looks like I've got some mycelium growing here, which is good. I've been doing some substitute feedings with a little bit of worm chow to try and make sure that the worms are continuing their population expansion. I don't see any cocoons off, you know, just looking, but I imagine if there wasn't a 3-ring circus going on in the background, I could maybe spend a little more time looking. Okay, and there we go. Looks like we've got no worm ball, but it looks like they did finish up all the food that I gave them last time, as well as the worm chow. Okay, I have to go take care of my drama queens. Hold on. All right, I'm gonna add some more bedding. Okay, and then here is the current feeding for today in a puppy treat container. Part of this has been cut up and sitting for a while, and some of it is just fresh cut today. Wanted it to be a combination of fast food and slow food. Then, as the last part, we're gonna dump in some more red wigglers. These have been living in the mortar tray. These have been living in a mortar tray, being fed worm chow since they arrived. I've been trying to make sure I get blue emptied out here before I give them, so that there's room for more volume. There we go. And that top's blew up with some extra friends for him to continue on repopulating to his former glory. All right, well, that is the Wedge system with some undesired cat and dog drama. So if you have any questions about the Wedge or blue or worm farming in general, please drop those questions down below. I really appreciate everybody that has stuck along this far, and thank you for hanging out with me and my worms, and everybody have a good day.